you check the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And I'm Davey Deathray.
And we are here to review the brand new, old idea from, whenever Grindhouse came out. What was that, 2006 or something like that?
Yeah.
The new film representing the very old trailer by Eli Roth for Thanksgiving. And this is basically a updated Thanksgiving movie. It's not in the Grindhouse style that the original trailer was. And there's a reason for that Eli Roth gave in an interview that I can discuss later in the review. But basically, this is a slasher that takes place in modern day, and getting right into our overall thoughts, because we always do our overall thoughts, then the story, the acting, the effects, the filmmaking. We cover all of that good stuff in turn. And by the way, if you want to watch any clips of the film while we're doing our discussion, I don't tend to overlay the clips because it presents a copyright nightmare, having to edit that stuff. So, I know some big YouTubers get away with it, but I do not, unfortunately, on this channel.
Use your imagination.
No,
right?
There's going to be a link in the description box for the trailer if you want to pull the trailer up in a separate window and just have that rolling. It's all the same clips I would have used, so by all means do so. But starting off with the overall thoughts, I am going to say that I really enjoyed this film. I can't believe that, off the top of my head, I can't think of a slasher that Eli Roth has made. He did body horror with Cabin Fever. He did torture porn with Hostel films. He did Knock Knock, which was a remake, you said?
Yeah, I think it's a remake, home invasion kind of thing.
Yeah-ish. And
Sure.
I was not a fan of that, but I've been a fan of basically everything else he's been involved in. And I even know, the old story with him, he was actually Howard Stern's assistant. Well, not assistant, he was an intern for Howard Stern, and he was actually writing the script for Cabin Fever while Howard was on the air, and he had time to do so. And it's an interesting story, but this is his take on a slasher. And if you like Eli Roth, like I do, then you'll know he's partial to gore. In most of his films, they are very gore heavy, and this one was no exception to that rule. So I was very happy on the script front, outside of a couple conveniences which are typical for slashers, so it kind of fits, but still the script was fun, and the effects were awesome, and how the story played out was engaging to me for the whole hour and 45-minute runtime. So yeah, I was very happy with this one.
Yeah, me too. I loved it. I thought it harkens back to the early to mid 80s slashers. Kind of gave me those Prowler feels, which I got from the trailer for sure, and the movie, takes it even further in that direction. So really fun if you're a fan of old school slashers. I loved the performances were really fun. The characterization of people that live in the Northeast was a little over the top, but done really, tongue-in-cheek. Everything felt purposeful, and yeah, I think I hope this is a character that we get back. I want to see more.
I think there's a strong possibility.
I hope so.
Yeah, if the response of our preview crowd is going to be any indication of the overall response to the film's in good shape.
Yeah,
because the crowd loved it. I didn't hear one person walking out of that theater grumbling, and we hung around because there was a lot of people in the horror community were there tonight, and shout out to Jason and from Sinister Cinema, and Braden Timmons was there as well.
Yeah.
And a couple of other
the Scaredy Cast guys.
The Scaredy Cast guys
Brian
were
and
there
Tony.
as well. Yep. So lots of awesome people. Monty, who has been on our channel before. Jay Photos, whose work we have covered in the past and we will be covering in the very near future with his Gorgon graphic novel series about Medusa, which is fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. So anyway,
a veritable who's who.
Yeah, everyone was happy with the film based on the reactions that we heard and discussed with people after the film. So I think that's going to be the overall consensus for people, which is great for us horror fans. Again, I continue to say, and especially appropriate for a Thanksgiving movie, horror fans are eating good this year.
Yeah,
you know
it's been great.
So let's get into the story of it. It's pretty simple. there is something that happens at the beginning. There's an inciting incident, which is actually, so the inciting incident is, it's a Black Friday sale, and it gets really out of hand. I'll say that much. I don't want to spoil anything beyond that, because it was I could feel the theater like thrilling at what they were seeing. Like, it was a very, very strong, basically, opening sequence. And that's actually one of the things that made Eli Roth want to set the film nowadays versus where he had envisioned it back in 2006.
Yeah.
Because in 2006, Black Friday sales and tales of tragedy from said sales hadn't existed yet.
Yeah.
And so now he found a way in to do a revenge slasher movie by way of Thanksgiving time or Black Friday, right? Because Black Friday moved on to Thanksgiving. So there you go.
It's going to be Monday soon. It's just ridiculous.
But yeah, stuff happens there, and then basically a year later, as the Black Friday sale once again approaches, there is someone out for revenge because of the things that happened at the beginning of the film. And this group of high school kids are the focus of the killer. There are definitely people that are cannon fodder along the way, but it is oh so fun to watch the fodder be cannoned.
Yeah. Hell of a lot of fun.
Did you like how the story played out? Again, without spoiling anything beyond what we've just revealed, because we're not doing a spoiler for this one. So how did you like how it played out?
I like it. It's your classic, revenge kind of slasher. So something happens that sets it up, and then it's whodunit from there. A lot of fun. I felt like the pacing, they did a really good job with when to stick in the kills. It wasn't like...
Yeah, it was. That's a very good point. Yeah.
It wasn't like maybe you get a couple that are pretty quick, like in succession, and then you have a few more minutes, but it wasn't so like beat for beat. I really enjoyed it.
I feel like we got more extra kills than your normal slasher.
Absolutely.
Because there was like that. You're right. It was paced very well because you never went more than probably 10 minutes without a kill.
Yeah.
And that's not usual even for the slasher genre. Slasher genre, it's maybe one per 15, 20 minutes. Or 30,
and there
depending.
might be off screen,
right, which
I don't think, are there any?
I don't think that's not Eli Roth's style.
He does.
No, all of them are very much on
back,
screen and very much in your face a lot of the time, and that's part of what I loved about it. I mean, let's just start with that then. Normally we save the effects for the end of the review, but they are literally one of the biggest selling points about this, and to me, one of the selling points of Eli Roth as a horror filmmaker. He doesn't shy away from that, and he keeps... This was basically 90 to 95% practical. Yeah. There was definitely, especially one... a couple of kills had some CG gushes, added, and one of them, it was like kind of prominently featured, and it didn't look the best, but outside of like that one bit of CG gushing, like everything else was practical, old school, really awesome, and could you say creative? Would you say creative?
I thought so, because certain things happen where you're just like, oh my god, like I did not expect that at all. And sometimes you get like a gasp or even like a laugh from it, like
nervous laughter.
Just exactly what you want from this kind of movie. Like when you watch the trailer, you see what they're showing you, and you get exactly that in spades. So
and you know what? I will say creative insofar as every kill, basically, there's a different implement used. Yeah. And almost all of them are Thanksgiving based. And like I mentioned to you, I can't remember the context in which I mentioned it, but I was like, I said I would like to use this for the thumbnail, but we don't have one at my house. My mom has one. Yeah. And then I was like, I wonder if they're going to use that, because it wasn't shown in the trailer, and they did use that. And it was very, as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, there it is. But yeah, like gore galore, and really awesomely utilized, because the killer is tagging people on this aggressive Instagram account. He's tagging his his intended victims, this group of kids, and tagging them in his in his little Thanksgiving table setup,
Yep.
which is shown in the trailer. If you're watching it, you're seeing that. But yeah, as the kills happen, he sends the pictures and kind of shows what's going on, and again, Eli Roth just lives in that, and it's awesome for me as a gore horror fan.
Yeah, some of that stuff looks as real as can be.
Yeah.
Some of it where I was like, man, how did they do that? Like, is that a prop, or did they find some other way of getting this effect that looks so real?
Yeah, exactly. I would say, and I was watching and I could tell how he did like one or two things, but some of the things were just really well done.
Yeah.
Really, really well done. And so yeah, gore, awesome. Acting. Let's talk about the acting, because you worry about slashers and the acting sometimes. At least nowadays, I tend to, because half the time it's your elevator game level acting or below, and then there's talk to me acting and above, and I feel like everyone played their role very well. Again, it's kind of your ultimate slasher movie, as far as Eli Roth has obviously assimilated how to do a slasher very, very well, and do it with his panache, and man, I think it worked really, really well, and the acting wasn't bad, but it was appropriate for such a slasher film, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the actors all knew what the job was, and they knew how to get there. It's almost like pushing it to the point of like almost self-awareness, but like stopping before you get there.
Right.
So there was like, they're just really doing it up as far as slasher characters. They're so classic in that sense. Yeah. But then there was also something that I thought was really slick and like well measured in the performances. I thought everyone did a really good job. Yeah. Like, especially like the core kids are really good, and Patrick Dempsey is great. Yeah. I don't know the actor who played the father, Mr. Wright.
Oh yeah,
that guy's voice is incredible.
Yeah.
Everything he says, I'm like,
he's a very good at character actor, because I know I've seen him in things before, but I couldn't place exactly where. He doesn't always have the facial hair that he had in this one. But yeah, the acting was good. And I'm gonna say this leading into talking about the writing in the film, but the only issue I had with the group of kids, and it wasn't because of the acting, it was more because of the writing, is that while they all acted their particular parts well, I didn't really understand why those characters hung out as a group. Like, I never really got the sense that they were really super big good friends outside of always being around each other. Yeah. When they're supposed to be a friend group, but I never really got the camaraderie between them and stuff. So I
think that's fair.
That's the only thing I would say. Well, that, and there's a couple of times that are very typical slasher where something happens and a character makes note of something that there's no reason for that particular bit of information to be given, except that it's going to come back later on. It's like seeing the wood chipper in a parking garage in Evil Dead Rise at the very beginning of the film, and not going like, gee, I wonder if that's going to come into play at the end. You know what I mean?
They're just going to throw Michael Myers in it.
Yeah. Well, they did that too. Yeah, the giant grinder. But anyway, so that's my only issue with the writing. Otherwise, I feel like the writing is, again, very in the pocket for a slasher movie, but it was entertaining. It was funny. It was like one of the better versions of what we've seen before. You know what I mean?
I think so. I agree. And I think the way they tie it in with the story is just that the guys all play sports. So they're friends through sports, and then got the girlfriends. Okay. Because the two guys play football and the other guy plays baseball. So I think that's kind of what they're going at. But fair. I think that's sort of like, you might even find that in a high school group.
That's fair. Got, like, I didn't actually. Yeah, fair.
3 bros and then the 3 girls that they all pick to date or whatever, because they're just supposed to be kids. But I thought they did a great job. I love how sometimes the acting, even especially at the beginning, there's some like fun, like kind of cartoonish elements. Yeah. Albeit very R-rated, but where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is just they're having so much fun here. Yeah. What a way to kick it off.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Well, and I will say again, back to the writing just a little bit. I did, in my mind, who I thought was going to be the killer was the killer.
Okay.
And so, but that's because I put two and two together that he wasn't necessarily putting right next to each other to be put together.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I think that might be why this happened so quickly.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's outside of those things, I enjoyed the writing. How did you feel about the writing itself?
Yeah, I was hoping that it wasn't who. I was sitting there watching it thinking, oh no, just please don't make it this person.
Mm-hmm.
And then it ended up being that person.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just being selfish because I didn't want it to be that way. But I thought the writing was, again, really swift. Each scene led itself to one another really well.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time where I was thinking, oh, I think that this sort of slasher thing should happen here. And it totally happened there. I don't want to, spoil anything, but I was just like, cool. Right when I wanted to see something, they delivered just after that moment, hitting all the points.
Mm-hmm.
And... I guess like just if you want to fit that 80s slasher thing and you want to be like 88 to 92 minutes, they could have done that. But, it's a little bit longer, but it doesn't drag.
Right.
So I was entertained the whole time and, just ready for the next thing that was going to surprise me.
I feel like, so normally in slashers that go too long, I would agree with you. I didn't feel like there was any wasted time because of the frequency of kills throughout.
Yeah.
So I didn't have an issue with the runtime at all. Normally, I would agree. Yeah, let's make it leaner and meaner. But I didn't really feel any extraneous moments in the film. It was just all a good time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the actual filmmaking itself. It was very throwback to old school slashers, obviously with a modern polish. But I enjoyed the way it was filmed. I enjoyed the way it was presented. It wasn't... I don't know, it didn't feel... It felt new while being grindhousey still, after a fashion.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess I can't figure out a more clean way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain shots and stuff like that really are reminiscent of films like Halloween, which I thought was great, that here we're setting up this character that's got a really cool look and a creepy, memorable look.
Yeah.
So I thought showcasing the character early on was done really well. Mm-hmm. And
I also like how his look evolved after a scene.
Yeah, it did. There was a time where you're like, oh yeah, he's got a little bit of a different thing going on now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even though he holds the axe all the time, like you said, a lot of different implements used. Mm-hmm. And I think the film, shooting wise and everything, it looked great. I mean, Eli Roth knows what he's doing. He knows how to. The editing of the action was really nice when he's going after people, and all that was. That you can feel the impact, and the
chaos.
The tempo was really
scene,
nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there in that scene. I'm freaking out. It's like watching The Descent again, except for I'm not worried about being in caves. I'm worried about being in this store. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was super crazy. Yeah,
I was surprised at how effective, because again, having read the article when he explained that was going to be his inciting incident, I was like, we'll see. Like, because remember they started Krampus the same way. It started with a Black Friday sale and people going in slow motion, fighting with each other. Didn't get as gory as this because it was meant to be PG-13 Christmas horror movie. But that's, this is basically the R-rated version of that opening scene.
And wasn't there a movie called Black Friday that had
oh yeah, you're right,
Bruce
there
Campbell
was.
in it that came out last year?
That's right.
But that whole
I don't think it was
movie
last year. It might be 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever actually sat down and
I didn't
watched
see
that
it either.
one.
Is it like a zombie film or something?
I don't know. It might be something stupid like that.
But yeah, I mean, I think that you can definitely, something might sound like an odd idea on surface level, and then you see the way somebody pulls it off, and you're like, no, shit. Good job.
Yep.
Like, way to go.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, man, I mean, I don't know. I don't think without spoiling anything there's much else to say about it other than we very much recommend it, and I actually think it's worth your money to go and check it out in a theater.
Absolutely.
Especially with if you're willing to go during an opening weekend crowd, I think it's worth your time because the crowd gets into it. It's like the fun kind of slasher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where everyone's kind of on board and I can't even remember what early on something happened, but people were like kind of like cheering.
Oh yeah, I mean that whole opening scene has like moment after moment where you're just like, oh my gosh, yeah, really good stuff.
Yeah, so very
Highly
engaging
recommend.
for the crowd. Definitely worth going to see in theater. So yeah, that's gonna do it, you guys. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. I'm gonna put a link to Davey Deathray's YouTube channel in the description box down below. He's still in his building phase, so throw him a subscription if you wouldn't mind, and then you'll just have the bonus of his content.
There you
go. So thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And I'm Davey Deathray.
And remember, stay scared.